interesting that this talk that I'm going to be giving is actually going to be on the heels of the keynote that you just heard, and they overlap in context and substance to some extent. I suspect that I'm going to go a little bit more in depth as I talk, and in all probability, you're going to find yourself confronting some questions a little bit more in depth. I apologize for my nose drip. I have what I call old man's drip. And at this time of the year, it's a constant flow. There's going to be some video in this talk. And right at the first video, I hope the sound is good. I've been assured that the sound is good. How many of you have heard about Scott Galloway? He's a New York, NYU Stern School professor. Runs a very, very popular podcast called Dr. G. Scott Galloway. Bit of a firebrand, extremely wealthy, and very provocative and upfront in his analysis of current trends.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Work-Life Balance. I'm Chintzia Lawrence. I'm on the board here, HCLA. I welcome all of you. Thank you for coming. So today we're doing, as I said, work-life balance, the yin-yang of recruitment and retention. Welcome to the breakout session 102. Dr. Ravi Iyer is an acclaimed expert on people-first leadership and one of 2024's fastest rising speakers, recognized alongside Simon Sinek and Pete Burbridge of the Dale Carnegie Institute. He blends high-performance teams and profitability with high employee satisfaction and customer service. In this talk, Dr. Ravi Iyer outlines the primary drivers for human satisfaction and how healthcare leaders can strategically rework their organizations to achieve three goals: superior employee productivity, deep employee alignment and ownership, fundamentally validating rewards. Drawing on 25 years of experience as the leader of the Iyer Clinic, chairman of Department of Medicine at HCA Reston Hospital Center, and director of Heartland Hospice, Dr. Iyer lays out proven techniques and strategies that have weathered the test of time in all economies to produce some of the best healthcare teams in the nation. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Iyer.
Thank you.
Enjoy.
All right. Thank you, everyone. I'm excited to be here in today's talk on work-life balance, the yin-yang of recruitment retention. And I'm Dr. Ravi Iyer. This year will be my 41st year as a physician. And I'm as excited this year as I was when I first started. And I'm going to share with you the things that have worked not only for me, but for the people that I have been associated with over 41 years, that allows them to get up in the morning with optimism, hope, and confidence, and go home to bed at night with a fullness of their heart and soul of a job well done. Now, a brand new training workbook has been included. You'll be able to download it directly from this presentation using a QR code. So you can download not only the presentation, you'll download a full training workbook that you can use at home and with your teams when you get back to your places of work, wherever you serve the community in the field of healthcare. So just relax, listen, don't take notes. I promise you, you won't need to take notes. It's better for you to listen to what I have to say. In 10 days from today, I will be giving my first TED Talk. And here's fellow TEDster Scott Galloway speaking about work-life balance.
You can have it all. You just can't have it all at once. While we all know that guy or gal who has a great relationship with their parents, is in amazing shape, has a flu blog, donates time at the ASPCA, and is a DJ on the weekends, assume you are not that person. If you expect to be in the top 10% economically, much less the top 1%, buck up. 2 decades plus of nothing but work. That's my experience.
There you have it. Might as well go home and start working, everyone. All right? And there is some truth to what he says. And I'm going to talk about both sides of that coin, though not as bluntly as he puts it, but definitely as honestly as he tries to be. Everyone remembers this movie, Pretty Woman? It was a rage. You remember that scene where Julia Roberts picks up Richard Gere in Richard Gere's friend Stucky's Yellow Lotus? You think Julia Roberts was all about making a difference in Richard Gere's life at that moment? I belong to a 300 physician group, and my physicians, all the physicians in my group, are like Julia Roberts. They don't believe that they make a difference. They make a lot of money, like her, not much difference. And my physicians in my group are not bad. They're the best in the country. So I didn't say they're not good. They just don't believe they make a difference. And they're as cynical and blasé about their ability to make a difference in their life like Julia Roberts is about sex and relationships. And by the end of this talk, all of you are going to fall in love with your work like the way she did at the end of the movie. So let's get going. Most physicians live life like the words of Macbeth, Shakespeare. He says, tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day till the last syllable of recorded time. And this phenomenon, this emotion is deep and pervasive. When I use the word physicians, I know that not many of you are, some of you are, but in healthcare, this is a deep, pervasive phenomenon. And this emotion is something that is so deep that we just take it for granted. We really don't question it. Like seriously, like this is serious. We don't get up in the morning and say, why am I feeling this way? We just think that that's the way it's going to be. And I'm going to ask some hard questions now. And I want all of you to really respond to this. If you agree with this question, say aye. All right? How many of you feel healthcare has some serious problems? Aye. Right. How many of you feel that burnout is a real issue? How many of you feel that people are not entering healthcare like the way they used to? How many of you feel that people are quitting more than joining? How many get up in the morning feeling tired and without inspiration? How many feel exhausted and defeated at the end of the day? How many do not feel any of those? Not a single hand. That is tragic. We in this room are collectively responsible for saving people's lives, and this is not how we should feel. Now, despite all this, we have all heard some things. We have heard tell of a story like a fairy tale, like performance is a goal that a few excellent people achieve. You heard these stories like the way we hear stories of Rapunzel and Cinderella, like in Disney World. And you heard tell that balance between work and life is something that people get, and that a few fortunate few manage to find their dream jobs. And you've heard tell of all this, and you spend the last second of all our lives searching for this promised land. And today, I'm going to give you a promise. And it's an insane promise. By the end of my talk, I'm going to promise this. Every one of you will have a taste of what it feels to live like the way I speak about and like the way every one of my staff live every day. You may not become as skilled as my staff, but you'll have a taste of what it means. And hopefully that taste will make you hunger to acquire that and create it for yourself. The title of this talk has 3 sections. It has 1 action, 1 description, and 1 outcome. The action is work-life balance. The description is yin-yang. The outcome is recruitment and retention. The entire talk is contained within just these 3 things. Work-life balance as an action, as an act that we do, as a verb, the method of describing how we achieve it as yin-yang, and the outcome being people who want to join your team, stay on your team, and never quit. The interesting thing about it is everyone thinks about work-life as 2 separate things. East is east, west is west, and twain shall they never meet, said Rudyard Kipling. Now, let me tell you a secret. There is no such thing as work-life. It's only life. I got up this morning, I brushed my teeth, it was life. I took care of my bodily needs, it was life. Came down, had breakfast, it was life. Got into my car, drove to work, it is life. Walked into work, it is life. So where does work come in? Work-life happens when you find your life work. When you find your life work, then your life works. And the secret about it is, in actuality, work and life and the balance part of it exists outside of work and life. It exists in the context. When you see yin-yang, everyone thinks of this image. But guess what makes that image work? It is the dovetailed circles around those letters. And that lies outside yin and yang, just like the tipping point of the balance lies outside work and life. And that word is context. Simon Sinek calls it the why. Every member in my team and the people I have worked through in my 41 years as a physician, at some point came to the point where they were able to know exactly why they existed on this planet. That's a question and an answer that each one in this room should be able to find out for themselves. Why do you exist? Why do you live? For what purpose? See, if people don't know why they exist, then nothing they ever do can ever be meaningful, either for themselves or for anyone around them. And everyone has to find that answer for themselves. And while we or I, when I run my courses, can help people on their path to finding out their why, it is an intensely personal and uniquely individual process. And it's something that we in healthcare have to do at all times. We simply cannot even show up for work if we don't know why. The idea of context and why is the source of being. See, everybody in this field knows what to do. We know what we do, we know what to do, we know who to do it to, we know who to do it with, and we know how to do it. What we don't know is why we do it. The being of human beings, the being of why I exist, exists in the context of my life, the context that I bring to my work. We all spend our lives, years and years of our life and thousands of our dollars in finding out how and what to know. We spend our time knowing more and more about many more things. All the grids, the overlapping circles, the spreadsheets, the to-do lists. All that knowing does not result in performance, satisfaction, or purpose. All that knowing is just stuff we carry from room to room, job to job, until we find out our why. See, the knowing of things is all that people know. And performance, on the other hand, falls into 5 categories of behaviors that are central to what I call the pentagon of performance. The first is leadership. And most people think of this image of leadership, George Washington crossing the Delaware, the bold, macho leader thumping the chest. That's not the leadership that really works. The leadership that really works for performance is a leadership of space, where the leader actually commits himself or herself into being a space where the people around them show up as able. That's a kind of leadership that is not very, very common. It also requires a lot of risk-taking on part of the leader. Think about what leaders really do. What did Genghis Khan do for his tribe? Or Caesar do for the Romans? Or Alexander do for his army? They created a space where the people around them had clarity of where they were going to do, where they were going forward, and what was going to happen in their life. See, the fundamental thing that we all know is that life is unpredictable. Every creature, whether it's an amoeba to the highest human being, operates on the principle of trying to avoid discomfort and capture comfort for themselves. That's all we do. All creatures do it. And we all operate to try to predict what's likely to happen in the next 5 minutes so that we can position ourselves to capture that advantage for ourselves, avoiding discomfort and capturing comfort. And what a leader does is he gives his tribe or her tribe the surety that their predictions are likely to come true. A tiger that cannot predict where the deer is going to appear is going to go hungry. The deer that cannot predict where the tiger is going to appear is going to be eaten. So this prediction-seeking behavior is something that we all do. From the homeless hobo to the biggest Wall Street banker, the drive to predict is universal. And the one thing that a leader does at all times for their team is they predict outcomes and secure a space where their team can acquire those outcomes for themselves. One of the big problems during the pandemic was that our predictability of our immediate future became unpredictable. Imagine the panic it created. We were also surrounded by globally. In every country, the leaders, the politicians of that country abandoned their role as predictors of future. And it was every man, woman, and child for themselves, and they will take the hindmost. Imagine the chaos that we all endured for a solid 18 to 24 months. This importance of leadership cannot be overstated. The next thing about the pentagon of performance is supportive autonomy. Everybody needs freedom to make decisions, but if you just take people and say, okay, go, you're on your own, do your own thing, it's extremely unnerving. Most people in teams have varying levels of risk tolerance, and if they are suddenly shoved into a job and told, go do whatever you want, no problem, they'll just fall apart. You don't get high performance like that. Now, you don't get high performance if the leader sits there and says, oh, no, do this, no, do this, do this, do this. handholds them every step of the way, micromanages. That destroys confidence too. Not only does it destroy confidence, it breeds resentment, it breeds manipulation, it breeds all kinds of self-destructive and self-preservative behaviors. Nothing that yields performance. And mind you, for work and life to be in balance, you need that. So when you talk about work-life balance, you're basically talking about a high-performance team. Because when people come in and succeed, they feel good about themselves. They go home validated. They go home excited about what they accomplished and eager to come back the next day. Supportive autonomy, on the other hand, is what you see when, in this image, you have a teacher guiding a student but not really taking over the job, letting the student find their way and standing there ready to redirect if necessary, but leaving the person free to make small errors and self-correct if they can. In the Iyer Clinic, we have a system where every year I tell my staff, every member of my staff, they have $5,000 of freedom to make mistakes that year. That means they can make mistakes up to the bill of $5,000. I will bear it without any problem. Now that $5,000 credit line varies. That is the bottom line. When I have a really good year, it goes up $10,000. No, I'm serious. I tell my staff. And the only question I ask when somebody makes a mistake is, do you know what you have to do now? And if you do, then let's clean up. That's all. And that brings me to the next thing, shared suffering. The cleanup of errors in my practice, in my organization, is shared. Everyone pitches in. And I got this lesson from my grandmother. When I was little, I have 10 cousins. I have one brother and 10 cousins. And we all big extended family, all in the same town. So we all used to get together and we all used to get into mischief. You know what my grandmother did? If one guy did the mischief, all 10 got paddled. Shared suffering. And guess what? We all watched out for each other. No, you don't do that. I'm going to get it. All right? So the same thing happens in the clinic. No one allows anybody to make a mistake. And guess what it did during the pandemic? We created a buddy system. During the pandemic, 85% of practices in Northern Virginia shut their doors to in-person care. My clinic, we opened our doors and we expanded from a 3,000 square foot office to a 3,000 square foot office for well patients and a 12,000 square foot parking lot for sick patients. And the clinic became Northern Virginia's first and largest community COVID testing and treatment center. Not only just the parking lot, we expanded operations to do house calls on COVID patients who were not sick enough to go to the hospital, but too sick to come to the office. We went into nursing homes and delivered care where nursing homes were, you can't tell an Alzheimer's patient to isolate. There is no 6-foot clearance in a nursing home. They'll come, they'll fight with you, they'll sneeze upon you, they'll spit, they will punch you when you try to do a swab. We did all that. Not one of us fell ill. Why? Because each person had 2 people with them. Clorox and Lysol was in short supply. No one had it. But guess what? No one told anybody to go and stock up on swimming pool disinfectant. Swimming pool disinfectant, if you can swim in it, you can spray it on. So we got that by the gallon, concentrate by the gallon. 1 gallon of swimming pool concentrate lasted 3 years. And we had spray bottles that will spray each other before and after every patient. We had PPE was in short supply, and not only that, single-use PPE was too expensive. But guess what? Snow pants and wind cheaters are impermeable to snow water, so they'll be impermeable to sneeze and spit droplets too. And not only that, they were pretty cool, you know? So we used that. And at the end of the day, we would just undress in the garage of our houses, drop it into the hot water washing machine cycle, and it was ready for reusing. Rubber garden boots became our slip-ons during the work, and we had small Rubbermaid, pans to step in and disinfect our feet as we walked around, and so on and so forth. So we innovated, and all of that came out of this. Supportive autonomy, shared suffering. There's your shared suffering for you. Navy SEALs approach. When you have these three, leadership, shared suffering, and supportive autonomy, and it feeds in that region. You have supportive autonomy that allows shared suffering, and when you have that, then you can start doing recognition, and you can start celebrating accomplishments of each other. And when you have that, you have engagement, and you have the I that you had just a few minutes ago in this room. Everyone saying, I'm here, I'm in. Now, all of this does not happen just by itself. It happens because of what I call the golden egg of life. And if you have the golden egg, I swear you are the most blessed person in this universe. And the golden egg consists of three things: context, constructs, and content. Context is the why. Why do you exist? What is the reason your business exists? What is the one thing that you all are engaged in? And it's different for different people, different for different teams, different for different organizations. And the context of an insurer is different than a context of a malpractice provider as compared to something else. So it's different. But each organization has to find their own context. Constructs are the methodologies, the tools, the policies they use to translate their context into actual product. The product is the service or whatever. If they are making a device, then that is their content. And these three form the golden egg that gives meaning to leadership, supportive autonomy, shared suffering, recognition, and engagement. So you can't just go and have this without the golden egg. That's like having a body without a heart or a zombie without a soul. And this is the reason why you can have an organization where you do all of that other stuff and you still don't have value, because the soul is missing. And it's not like people don't know how to do this. They don't realize how central it is, and they don't spend enough time creating it in the first place, and then they don't spend time renewing it. It's like marriage vows. I'm married 38 years. Most people in this room probably have similar durations of time. I choose my wife every minute. I choose her when she's yelling at me for not taking out the trash. I choose her when there is someone more attractive across the street who's not yelling at me. See, it's a choice, and you have to recreate it. It's not a one time and done. It's not a one and done. It's an everyday thing, and the time you have to do it most is when it is hardest to do. So I talked about this being in balance, knowing content, how, who, what, when, and this is all we do. But context is what is all of it. And the all is an acronym for something we do in our clinic. It's called the Art of Living Leadership. It's a program, but I use that as a euphemism back and forth. But context is all. And knowing something is not equal to doing it, because the missing link, as I already said, is being. And being does not just happen without distinctions. And I'll give you an example. In Africa, there's the Kalahari Desert. The Kalahari Bushman is extremely skilled in tracking. And if a Kalahari Bushman walks through the bush, he will know from a dimple on the sand what kind of creature made it, whether it was injured or whether it was... He will know a lot about that particular creature. For me, it's just a little scratch on the sand. I don't know what it is. I don't have the distinction. For me, what does it matter? A Kalahari Bushman will know which leaf can cure which ailment. For me, it's just a leaf or a root. I don't have distinctions. But if I take that Kalahari Bushman and put him on the street of New York behind a car, he's going to grab the rear view mirror and try to steer the car with the rear view mirror, because he doesn't have the distinction of what makes the car go forward. And he'll go down the street in New York City, and when you try to steer a car using the rear view mirror, you get into a lot of accidents. And then you have a story about it. Life is tough and it sucks. Or you have something else like life is tough and I am tough, or some other nonsense like that. But that's exactly what happens when you don't make distinctions between what produces results and what does not. What produces the reason for why you do things and what does not. Distinctions are the heart of being. The distinction for me as to why I need to remain married to my wife is what makes a marriage last 38 years and as long as there's breath in each other's body. Distinctions are everything. And the work of distinctions is PhD level work in the University of Life. A lot of people go through life starting off with making distinctions initially, and then they stop. It never ends. Distinction, the work of making distinctions between what matters most in your life is important life work. And when you do your life work works. The idea of going through life without making distinctions, thinking that if you know something, you can do something, is like giving somebody a book on a bicycle that describes how the bicycle is constructed and how the pedals operate and how the chain moves the sprocket and the wheel and what gear works and what brake works and where you should sit, and then expect somebody who has never ridden a bicycle to drive the bicycle down the street. All of that knowledge does not result in balance, because balance resides in the muscle distinction between balance and falling. Balance resides in the intrinsic distinction between what is balance and what is not balance. And when you get balance, when you make the distinctions in your body of balance, you can do this. You dance through life. You do what my staff does. We have a room full of 40, 50 patients, and my staff are laughing and the patients are not upset. Distinctions make life happen, make dance possible. We all have businesses, right? What is our business? Healthcare? diagnosis, testing, treatment, therapy, revenue, manufacturing, whether it's device or drug, non-invasive procedures, surgery, clinical trials, non-invasive, regulation, compliance, admin, operations, risk management, imaging, all of that is the context. We improve people's lives. But look at the difference. When you go back to this is all stuff. This is why. The ability to make distinctions clear for oneself and the ability to reside within these distinctions allows for the emergence of context and being. So you really don't need to create being, you just have to create distinctions and being happens as a natural aspect of self-expression. So when somebody talks to you, you need to have emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is content. Distinction is the why of emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is the outcome. Being nice to people, greeting people, saying hello, trying to put yourself in somebody else's shoe, all of that is the constructs, the processes, the context is why you do all of it in the first place, and that is the intrinsic recognition that the other person has value in your life. When I look at my wife with value, I am automatically concerned that she had a nice day. I automatically concerned that let me do that for you. This is the essence, and it is not that we are going through life being mean and inimical to people. We forget the distinctions, and that is the life work, recreating distinctions every day, every minute, choosing the wives of our lives over and over, choosing our partners, choosing our collaborators, choosing our subordinates, choosing our bosses, choosing our jobs again and again. When the job is tough, we choose it. When you stop choosing, you start quitting. There are only 3 reasons why people have a low performance outcome. Whether it's burnout, lack of balance, infighting, dissatisfaction, quitting, fraud and forgery, failed relationships, a sucky life in general, all of that, it comes down to 3 things. Lack of integrity, lack of authenticity, and lack of being committed to something bigger than oneself. This is the distinctions. And most people, when they talk about integrity, they think being honest is integrity. Being honest is the kindergarten step of integrity. Integrity is far, 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 far bigger than just being honest. Not stealing is not the same as integrity. Integrity fundamentally boils down to being your word. And I'll go into that a little bit. In my organizations, we make promises to each other that we will make such and such things happen. Now, most people are very uncomfortable making such categorical promises. You know why? Because everyone knows that life has a way of making your promises false. They know that the unpredictability of life will throw a curveball which will make a liar out of them. And therefore, they like to play it safe and say, yeah, I'll do it if this happens, if the sun rises in this angle and the moon is on this position in the star and there's a comet on the horizon, I'll do all of this for you. That's not what we do. And the reason why we do this with confidence is we accept the fact that our promises will be broken. You know what gives us courage to accept that and make a promise? Because we say that I promise that I will do this for you, and if I am not able to do it, or if I don't do it on time, I will fix the upsetness that was caused in your life. And because I commit to making your life whole, no matter what, I have the courage to make a promise. Now, that's an organization that will always perform at the highest possible level. Most people are petrified to make that kind of a promise. But that's the one that will produce satisfaction. That's the one that will produce people who will hang around for the long haul. That's the one that will allow people to dance through a pandemic, that will stare death in their face and make death flinch. That is what produces real health that cares. So what we do have in healthcare is a validation problem, a burnout problem, but it fundamentally comes down to no integrity, no authenticity, and no commitment to a purpose larger than themselves. And these are examples, because without integrity, nothing works. And think about what I mean by integrity. You remember that analogy of the bicycle? Think of integrity like a wheel with spokes. Integrity, something has integrity. In the realm of an object, something has integrity where it is whole, complete, and works to the purpose for which it was designed. So if you take a wheel with spokes and you start removing spokes, at some point the wheel loses integrity, it no longer functions. And think of a car that lacks integrity in terms of its functional parts that are likely to break down. It breaks down in traffic, you are stuck in traffic, you don't fulfill your promises. And so the lack of integrity in one part of your life results in breakdowns in a whole series of sections of your life and in the lives of everyone related to you. So when we have in my clinic, we are our word, and no one in my clinic is ever late because. You know how we are? Oh, I was late because there was traffic. Oh, because I was stuck behind a school bus. I don't care. The cause why you are late does not change the outcome of being late. It does not make one. See, if somebody was late with a cause or without a cause, the net result is the same lack of workability. So it doesn't matter from the point of view of an operating business, being late is late. So all I have to do is, I am late, I am sorry, I need to fix what did not get done. How can I do it? That's all. No conversation. You know what happens when you don't have that conversation? The people don't go back muttering under their breath. Yeah, she's late. Always a discipline. You know, I'm tired of this job. I'm tired of this job. And then this. And then a patient comes. What is it? Right? That person was late. This patient got blasted. That is the content of our lives. You know, it doesn't work when I tell my wife this, though. She's got to mutter. I say, honey, just tell me what I have to do and I'll do it. No, you did it that way too. All right, now is the time for all of you to take out your phones. The QR code will take you to a place where you put in that gold code. The code is gold. And that'll allow you to download a workbook, a training workbook. So if you can't download to your phones, you would like to do it on your computer, something like that, you know, you can take a photograph of this QR code and do it later if you want, but I would recommend that you do the QR code. There's a little question that you'll have to answer. It actually gives me feedback as to what I should and should not do in my next talk. So please do answer that. It's only 3 or 4 questions in that. and that'll answer that. It's very helpful to me and to HCLA to have that answer. Let me know when you are ready for me to move on with a show of hands. Ready, everyone? Aye, nay. All right, we'll go back to the golden egg. Remember I told you that the golden egg is the key in the pentagon of performance. Context. Context is the grounding idea for your team's existence. Now, this is my context. Empower, connect, and validate. This is my reason to exist. Everything I do in my life works on this. I live to empower, because by doing that, I empower myself. This is my context. It doesn't have to be yours. But regardless, you need to find that. The constructs is what I call the art of living leadership methodology, the Three Musketeer policy, and I'll come to that. But in a nutshell, the Three Musketeer policy is something that you remember the movie Three Musketeers, the Athos, Porthos, D'Artagnan? The Three Musketeer policy is all for one, one for all. And that is the basis for everything we do, and that is the basis for the shared suffering, the supportive autonomy, the leadership, the recognition, the engagement. All of it comes out of the Three Musketeer policy. And then the content is healthcare services and employee rewards. But when you have this, what happens is you have a fruitful tree. Your context becomes the roots of your tree and the soil that nourishes it. The musketeer policy becomes the branches and the leaves that nourish. The content becomes the fruit that everyone enjoys. The customers enjoy it and the employees enjoy it. So the triangle of integrity, authenticity, and commitment greater to something bigger than oneself becomes consistent with the all principle of Three Musketeers policy. And when you do that, both work and life automatically comes into balance. And that is because they all exist within the context of empowerment, context of validation, context of human connection. The all for one, one for all principle states that at all times, all actions done by every member in the organization will be oriented towards the success of their partner, not themselves. Every member in the team. So here automatically in this, you have a commitment to something larger than themselves. And buried within it is the idea that we exist in service of my immediate fulfillment. We are our brother's keeper. This is not just a fancy statement in the good book. It is an everyday principle that drives your existence. And when you are your brother's keeper, it is impossible not to be engaged. It is impossible not to get up in the morning feeling a sense of purpose, because he, on the other hand, is also your keeper. They're working for you too. It's not like you're only giving and getting nothing back in return. Every member in the team is their brother's keeper. So when you ask the question, remember how I said, what are we in business for? We improve people's lives. We improve people's. We includes everyone. Improvement is not just a statement. It has to be measured. I need to measure a perceptible positive difference. So I can't go around saying I improved people's lives if the other person did not perceive a positive difference. So the metric of my success in improving lies in the experience of my team member or my patient. People includes us. This is a big problem in healthcare because in healthcare, we are naturally oriented, genetically, we are oriented towards giving. We all have problems. Fundamentally, we are skewed. Our DNA is kind of skewed a little bit away from rewarding ourselves. We don't learn that very well. This forces us to reward ourselves. And the reward has to mean a total lived experience. And I'll explain that a little bit better. For example, when we hire in the clinic, the question I ask is, once I have determined that if somebody has the requisites to do a job, they have the training, they're good for it, they're a good fit, everything is good, they like the salary I'm offering, I like the salary I'm offering, everyone is good. Now, I ask the question, and this question has to be answered, otherwise the person doesn't get hired. Give me 3 things that you will want to have happen in your life by working in our clinic. If they cannot give me these 3 things, I can't hire them. And I've had people say, but I can do your job. I need this job. I said, I know, I'm sure you do. And you're great for the job. I'm telling you, you'll be great. But you have to tell me these 3 things. Otherwise, I can't hire you. It's not negotiable. It's the same principle. You don't get married because you are good with that person in bed. The same reason. They need to know what they're going to get for themselves. And they have to say it. You can't go around saying, oh, I'm going to do this for you. Because when they say that this is what I'm going to get out of it, then I will say, okay, of these 3 things, I can do all 3 for you, or I can do one of them, or I can do none of them. And if I can do none of them, I can't hire you. If I can do one of them, I'm going to ask, I can do only 1 out of your 3. Are you happy with that? And if the answer is yes, they are hired. Do you get it? There are no surprises, no regrets. It's very, very open and adult. Then I ask, what am I willing to commit to make happen in your life? What are you willing to commit to make happen in my life? See, these are all promises. You remember I told you about integrity? We promise on a daily basis that this is what I do. We have statements like, I commit to today being a good day for you. This is serious. We have statements that, oh, when you come to work, leave your baggage at home. No, we don't. Bring your baggage because it's your whole life. If your child is sick, if your life at home is falling apart, there is no way you are going to be good for me. I need to know how I can make your life work, because when your life works, my life works. This life works, this work works. And these are the hard questions that organizations need to ask. And leadership, leadership looks like this. This is what leadership looks like. Leadership is not a fancy label. This is what leadership looks like. In my teams, every member can do their job 100% perfect. And they can do every other person's job to 90% effectiveness. That's redundancy. You know what's the value of that? In my clinic, every staff member by rotation gets 1 Friday paid off every month. That means they all have a long weekend every month of the year. Why? Because their absence is not missed. Now that is a reward that affects where they live. You know what my staff do in that one Friday off? Doctor's appointments, children's dentist appointments, a little extra shopping, some me time with their husbands or their wives. You think they won't be happy? Do you think if I gave them a $5 raise, they're going to make them not happy? I haven't given a raise to my staff 8 years. But you know what I do? Every quarter they get a bonus. And the lowest bonus is $500 per person. The highest we have given is $1,500 per person. It all depends on the productivity of the clinic. During the pandemic, each one got $3,000 bonuses. Why? Because we were seeing 100 patients per provider per day. The bonuses are the taxes on the bonuses paid by the clinic. So it's actually $500 in their pocket, not $500 then deductions on that. No. That's what we do. We have been doing this since the year 2005. Remember the question about language determines reality? Remember how we say, if you don't chart it, it didn't happen? If you don't say it, it didn't happen. If we don't say to people, let me do this for you, you did not do it. The beginning of doing begins with saying. So this one slide, you can take this one slide and use it as your metrics of making your life work, your organization work, your marriage work. Anything that you're related with can work on the principles of this one slide. That's all you need to have a successful life, to have a meaningful life, to have a fruitful life. That's all you need. In translation, this is the reason why just saying something once does not produce results. You really have to own the listening of the listener. And owning the listening of the listener requires you to penetrate intentionally into that person. Because what they are listening, what all of you have been listening for the last 45 minutes, hopefully, is not just my words. You're listening to your voice in your head say to you what I am saying to you. You are listening to yourself, tell yourself what you are hearing. And for me to make sure that what my communication is received by you the way I intended it, I have to penetrate your listening and take over that inner voice. That requires repetition, that requires presence, that requires intention. It requires engagement, it requires vulnerability, it requires openness. When communication just does not happen, communication requires two people to engage from a position of vulnerability. And when somebody is vulnerable, then what happens is communion happens. And out of communion, communication happens. And a community is born. A community is not just a group of bodies occupying the same space. It is a group of hearts speaking the same speech. A successful practice, everyone is speaking the same speech. These are the ladies, there's one other lady who's not here, but they are the people who serve me. I talked to you already, long weekend, total recovery support. Oh yeah, in my clinic, somebody falls sick, 60 days is covered 100%. And that is the purpose of the Iyer Clinic commitment, to honor the human in each of us, to treat the least of us with the best of us that is in us, and to be a space for the emergence of human possibility. Thank you, everyone.